don't think I do it.
Arsenal started like a house on fire. Signing number 2 for this new era. It's Judgment Day, people. Yeah! What did your boy tell you? It was never in doubt. Never in doubt. Don't believe in any drug, I believe I'm self-made, yeah.
Now then, people, and welcome back to the Just Joe football show. And of course, it's 8 o'clock the day after the game. So, of course, it's time for the final word. I hope you are all doing well. Please do smash a like on the video before we get started. Subscribe to the channel, get your comments in, and, of course, hit that notification bell. Big up to the regulars as well. And we've got a debut tonight for Gilly from the Ought to Know Better podcast in substitute appearance for Luke. How you doing, mate? All right?
Yeah, not so bad. Thank you very much.
Good. Welcome. It's great to have you here. No Joe tonight. He's football training or pretending to be a manager on a Monday night, I think. Something along those lines anyway. Yeah, sign him up. Yeah, sign him up, mate. We need someone in the door, don't we? Listen, plan of action tonight, folks. We're going to discuss Man United. We're going to discuss Schreuder, and then obviously what next for Leeds United. It's now just, 5 days away before Everton away, 3 o'clock kickoff. So it's coming thick and fast. So Leeds United need to pull the finger out. But before we get into any of that, let's just find out how everyone is. Max, how you doing there, bro? All right?
All right, yeah. Like I said last week...
That didn't sound convincing, mate. That. It was like, oh, right, yeah.
We're in limbo, aren't we, a little bit? So
yes, we are.
We lost on Sunday, but there was some positives to take, which I'm sure we'll get into in more detail. But I'm feeling quite optimistic because of the quality of the squad that we actually have. But let's see what happens in the coming days first.
Yeah, let's see. Rocco, how are you, mate? All right?
Yeah, same really. It's worried about the limbo. It's limbo from top to bottom, and it all the way through. I thought we were great on Sunday, but then at the same time we missed a massive chance. You know that Man U 11 isn't particularly strong. So yeah, one of them.
It is. It was just one of them, wasn't it, Chris? How are you, mate? All right?
Do you know what, mate? I was post-match after the Man United game, I was pretty positive about it all, and I've just been on an absolute decline. And now I'm completely snapped about it all because I think Rocco's right. When you look back in the cold light of day, mate, it's a massive opportunity missed because of the same old problems. We can't finish our dinner.
Yeah, no.
It's me, to be honest, mate. And then you've wound me up on Twitter, but we'll get into that later.
We will do. Before we discuss Man United, let me just say a big shout out to McAllister Bishop. McAllister, by the way, is actually named after Gary McAllister. I've met McAllister, and that's his dad's gave him that name. I swear your middle names is football players as well, McAllister. You'll have to let us know in the chat. I don't think it is just McAllister. It's quite a few, to be fair. So let me know in the chat.
Adrian Bishop.
Yeah, but listen, McAllister, thank you very much for becoming a member of the Just Joe football show. Big up for that. Right, let's start then. Man United. Let's start with the positives. We'll come to you, Gilly. Obviously, there's been a lot of chat there just about the negatives after the fact, and I do agree with the lads in terms of the lineup. I thought, this Man United team can be got at, especially with Maguire and Shaw at centre-back. And we've seen later on when he did bring on Martinez, it sort of changed the game for me. But looking at the positives, first of all, it was a good performance, all told.
Yeah, I think for large stretches of the game, they had a lot of the possession, but they weren't doing any damage with any of it. There were a lot of it at the back, passing it around between themselves. I felt that when we had possession, we were doing something with it. We were getting it forward effectively. The problem was we weren't finishing off those chances that we were carving out. It felt like we were on balance, probably the better side in terms of the way that we were gaining possession. What we didn't do was capitalise on it. And I think that there was certainly towards the end of the first half, there was a bit of, oh God, we're going to rue the fact that we've not really carved out any. As Leeds fans, there's a lot of that pessimism that can really quickly creep in, and I think there were a fair amount of that in the stands around us, and it was really we're going to come to regret this, and then right at the end of the first half, I know we're focusing more on the positives, but right at the end of the first half, we gave them a really good chance, and we just offered that up ourselves. I felt that the concentration at the back had been decent. And actually, if any was going to give away the chance, it wasn't the player that did. But we offered that up and we got away with it. And then you go into half time and you're thinking, right, okay, we've not given away too much. We've had a decent amount of ball. We've had it in, probably in the better spaces of the pitch, rather than just knocking it about the back as they were. So going into the second half, I felt quite positive about it.
Yeah, no, I agree, Max. I think Leeds United largely were the better side. I've been absolutely peppered in my comments from Manchester United fans. Honestly, you would not believe. It's very much like, oh, what are you on about? You were the better side, but we were, right. We're not. We haven't got Leeds tinted glasses on there, have we? We were the better side, right?
I think people often mistake the amount of possession that a team has to who deserves to win a game in modern football. People think, oh, if you've got lower possession, then you don't deserve to win the game. But some teams will think, well, this is Man United. They've obviously got better quality on the ball, so we're going to let them have it a little bit more than we usually would, because otherwise we're going to get caught out. And so it wasn't the tactic to just have the ball the whole time. We actually played sensibly. We were compact. We didn't give anything away until very late on, other than obviously the mistake that Gilly mentioned. But it's just a difference in quality, isn't it? They finished their chances, but we had some really, really good chances to score. The Somerville one early on, Ayling's bicycle kick, couple of great saves from De Gea, which he always pulls off. But when you had the better of the chances, and obviously people hate XG, but it's if you use it loosely, just to say, look, on average, this is how many goals we should have scored. We nearly should have scored an extra goal than them, so we should have won that 2-1, and we ended up losing 2-0. So in the game, like you say, we were the better team. It's just that people nowadays just look at it and go, oh, well, we had loads more possession than you. We had the ball the whole time. Doesn't necessarily mean that they've been the better side. I think we carved out the better chances, but we just didn't have the quality to take them like they did. You're on mute, Joe.
Sorry, I had to shoot out there. What I did when I went off, you see, I got my Sky remote because I left it, and I've got Liverpool versus Everton on for us, because that's a huge game in the context of where we lie. And Liverpool have got a great free kick just on the edge of the box, to be fair. So fingers crossed. But Rocco, what do you put because for me, there's a gaping issue, or there was a gaping issue in the game, and I'm not going to hammer Skubala for it, but the substitutions definitely swung it in Man United's favour, both from a structural sense, from our perspective, and also them bringing on Garnacho, fresh legs, but also Lisandro Martinez at the back. I thought he just added quality, and that enabled Shaw to go out at left back, and he was the one who put that ball in the end.
Yeah, I might hammer him for it, to be fair, because he did the same on Wednesday and it didn't work. And I don't know. I mean, to me, Bamford didn't look particularly tired, whether it's because of his injury and the nursing him back. I don't know. Harrison didn't look tired. He's never tired. No. I just think we should have just kept going until they dropped. And, Rutter's come on, I mean, they've seen him in training. We've seen him on Wednesday. He doesn't offer the same as Bamford. And I think this is something that it does wind me up that, we've not tried to sign a striker with Bamford's qualities, because everyone knows that we're better with Bamford on the pitch, even though he's got some pretty fundamental flaws in his game. How can we not find someone that, that can do what Bamford does? It can't be that hard, because that's what we needed. We didn't need Rutter. He's a young kid. They're dressing him up as one of the main talents in Europe. It's nonsense. He's been called up once to the France under-21s. He scored 12 goals in his whole career. I'm not writing him off, but he's just a young up-and-coming talent that, he's not going to save us this season, or it would be incredibly unfair for us to expect him to save us when, he scored 2 goals in the Bundesliga this season. It doesn't add up really. So swapping Bamford for him, it just, all the wind went out of our sails then. And I'm not blaming Rutter, but like you say, Martinez coming on made a difference. They put Shaw to left back, and that's where they got the goal from. But also it gave them a lot more control. So it was a bit of both. It was just a combination that it just kills us in the end, sadly.
It did, and I'd go as far as to say, Chris, that Rutter needs to learn how to run first before he can start playing football. He looks like a giraffe on roller skates for me. He looks pretty brutal.
Mate, he's just got a horrible running style that doesn't look great. Makes him look.
No.
I remember we used to joke about Bamford because he runs probably the opposite to Rutter. Bamford runs like he's got a broom shoved up his backside and he can't bend. Whereas Rutter looks like he's got no spine. He looks like a jellyfish trying to run. For me, I would have brought Rutter on, but I'd have probably brought him on for Willie, you know, with 20 minutes to go, because I thought they largely stifled Willie in that second half.
Yeah.
Well, all game. He wasn't
all game, yeah. No.
They just marked him out of it, and Rutter might have given him a different problem. I wouldn't have brought him on for Bamford. Like Rocco said, and the other lads have said, Bamford, we know he frustrates about getting goals at times, but our whole structure comes from him at that point up front. And Rutter he was a headless chicken, and he looks even worse doing it when he runs like it's like, oh God. But he's almost trying to do too much, and I think a lot of that is record signing, young kid, probably feels a bit of the pressure on his shoulders to get on the pitch and make a difference. Whereas, Rocco's right. We can't be relying on 20? Something like that, 20-year-old kid to go on the pitch against Man United and change the game or make the extra bit. So I do feel for him in that. Yeah, but I do agree, mate. He does look like he's, I don't know, Bambi on ice when he's running about.
Yeah. Definitely, mate. Go on, mate.
I think there's a temptation because he's sort of been brought in as this striker replacement to just play him as a striker. But to be honest, for the time being, I think he's probably best coming off either side. Probably the right-hand side is probably the best thing for him to do, is to come on there and try and affect the game down the wing, because he's not just an out-and-out striker. And we always knew that when we signed another striker, it wouldn't be an out-and-out striker, because that's just not really what they were going in for with any of the targets. But he's in that mold of that sort of number 10 who can play as a striker, but any of those positions across that front line. So I think maybe as well, like, I can't remember who said it, but there's a big weight of expectation on his shoulders coming in as a record signing and stuff. So maybe putting him on the wing and giving him a chance to be a bit more creative rather than saying, go out and get us a goal, takes the pressure off a little bit and allows him to play the way he wants to play and get balls into the box for somebody like Bamford. Because I think playing together, they could do really well, but it's just, he's only 20, isn't he? It's a shame that I think a lot of people have written him off already after like 100 and something minutes in a Leeds shirt. But I think, some people are expecting him to be a world beater, including maybe Skabala when he brought him on as a striker, but he's not that yet. But obviously, we just got to give him time.
Yeah, no. Listen, I'm not writing him off by any stretch of the imagination. It's more a bit tongue in cheek, but he just doesn't fill me with confidence when he's coming on the football pitch in the short appearances we have seen him, and hopefully we'll see more. I think for me, Gilly, I'm quite a staunch supporter of Ilya Melier, and I do think he's going to be a great goalkeeper. Maybe I'm too much of a staunch supporter because there's been a few Leeds fans and there's a few in the chat tonight that have continuously questioned him, and I go, I think you're wild. But for me, he's got to be saving the Sancho one midweek and also the Garnacho strike. It weren't great, was it?
It won, and just as a bit of an extension to that, more midweek than yesterday. But for me, he's not commanding his box as you would hope. And I know he's still a young lad, and I think as a keeper you mature even later in your career than most players. So he's got plenty of time to go, and it's risk versus reward early on in the careers. You know that you're not going to get exactly from him what he will beyond 28, 29, 30, because a lot of it is experience when it comes to keepers. But there were a lot of times, as I say, more midweek, where he didn't come and collect the ball, and it'll be a punch, but he might not get the distance on it. And you're thinking, you could have caught that, and then that's going to take some pressure off as we relieve that. We can get people up the pitch. So I think, but you are right. I think that you don't know how much it lives in the mind, especially when he doesn't have that experience to call upon. When he looks back and thinks, I should have saved that. Does he carry that into the next game? And I think there's a lot of element around that as well. That mentality piece that goes with the experience. When you've made mistakes, and you know you can come back from it. That impacts a younger player much more than it's going to impact beyond that. I think some of that is evidence in the Rutter piece as well, is when you're looking at the changes that we made. Not only do we bring Bamford off, and that changes us, we've seen that over the time that we've had him at a club, it changes the makeup of the side, and it changes our effectiveness further up the pitch. But we took Jack Harrison off as well. At times we were harassing 2 players on his own. And then Reuter's coming on. And I know Harrington's, he was there to buzz around and to do some of that harrying, but he doesn't have the same physicality and the same presence. And for me, Jack coming off and Paddy coming off towards the end of the game, it were almost like well, that's it then, because we see Reuter coming on and you don't see that sort of presence.
Yeah, no, I think you've hit loads of nails on the head there, mate, with about 5 different hammers there, to be fair to you. I think the frustrating thing for me as well is like Aronson and Rutter are up there, and I know they're still young. I'm not writing them off. I have to qualify that because everyone, as soon as you're critical of anyone, people say you're writing them off. But it's like they're massive, expensive signings, 50 million combined there or thereabouts, and they come off the pitch and we get markedly worse. A lot of people that I listen to, that I see on Twitter, are hammering this old guard. They're talking about like, get rid of Bamford, get rid of Harrison, Ayling's terrible, etc. No disrespect. They've been the best in the last 2 games, them experienced heads, that old guard that need to be binned off. Rocker, I can see you nodding your head there, mate. It's right though, isn't it, man? They've been great.
Oh, massively. I'm a huge advocate for those players, and bringing on Aronson for Harrison, what a difference might it have made if we'd have had Click to bring on, someone like him, could have kept the momentum going. I can't believe that people call for the end of these players so quickly. I think they've got loads to offer. Cooper as well. Ayling's proved it last 2 games. He's been absolutely immense. Harrison's still doing it for me. I'm glad we didn't sell him. They've been there. They've done it. They know the history of the club. They've got it in their hearts. They're the ones that'll die to keep us up. So I think, they're the type of characters that we're going to need to rely on, because it's going to be tight. I hope we can just get a good manager in and burn away like Newcastle did, but I don't think that's going to really happen. I think it's going to be tough right down to the wire. So, this is the thing, like, Rutter and Aronson, fantastic if we're mid-table, but like in this relegation battle, we probably need people who sort of, that we can probably just trust and rely on a bit. It's a big ask for young lads like that, under a lot of pressure, like massive pressure, in a struggling team. That's an important point that people ignore sometimes. Brighton look like they're the best recruiters, but their players are coming into a really good team that know what they're doing. It's easy for them to just slip into, the 1 out of 11 players, and that makes such a big difference. If you're coming into a struggling team and every single week's a massive, difficult match, and the players are low on confidence, and you're the one that's supposed to have to make the difference, it's a massive ask for a young kid. So that's where I'm coming from with it.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if we would have been better off with somebody more experienced. And when we were looking at Otavio from Porto, was the only time really where we've looked at attacking midfielders and they haven't been under the age of like 23, 24. A lot of the ones that we've been looking at bringing in is that obviously there's a recruitment policy there to say, well, if they're that young, they've got such a good resale value that we're going to make a lot of money out of them if they come good. But sometimes you do need, like, maybe Click had come to the end of his time, but he was still an experienced head. And like you say, Joe, sometimes even if he's not playing the best, he can sort of help that momentum to keep going. So maybe when we've signed all these young lads, maybe we should have thought, well, maybe we should go for a little bit more of an experienced player in there as well, just to help things out. And I think somebody just said it in the chat there that we missed Sinistera. And Sinistera isn't that much of an experienced player, but I think he does make a difference when he's on. Because I think as much as Willie Nonto and Somerville and all of those lot, they've been playing really well. They're so raw. They've not had years of coaching like older players have. And obviously Sinistera hasn't had that as well, but you can see that Sinistera is a little bit more of a finished article than those other players. And so, you sometimes when people are like, oh, get rid of all the old guard, a lot of the time they're what's keeping us together still. They're the ones that are leading the team. They're the ones that are keeping everyone together. They don't have to be that old either. Verber's only 24, but he's leading things. And sometimes it's maybe the character of the player as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I don't know. I just, with regards to the current situation at Leeds United, and especially when we look to like acquisitions and stuff, we all thought it was like sort of rosy, you know, like Radrazani coming out saying it's impossible to be in a relegation battle and all that sort of stuff. And I think, you know, there's even a little part of me that bought into that. I was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, 14 fees, no problem. But we're way down there now. And I don't know. I think for me, what I've noticed over the past, like, I don't know, week or so, well, no, for the last 18 months, what am I talking about past week or so? It's like the blind leading the blind at times, isn't it, at board level? I know, Chris, you've got sort of big opinions on that sort of stuff. It seems to be not only, I guess the managerial chase has highlighted it, but we're even hearing stories that maybe there wasn't 100% harmonious boardroom when it came to the Rutter signing as well. It seems to have split opinions. So I was saying earlier, it's almost there's too many cooks, right?
Yeah, 100. That's exactly what it is, mate. It's too many cooks, all with big personalities and big opinions. And I can imagine in that boardroom, there's some real bum fights at times. I really can. And to be honest, mate, again, we've got an owner who can't get off Twitter when he's had a pint of Pinot, and he's just made us look stupid. And
yeah,
the problem is he's raised the expectations of the fans with his white smoke comment and all that lot. The press are now finding it hilarious. Other teams and fans are finding it hilarious. And we just look like a set of Muppets. And me and you both agree, mate, that white smoke was about Corberan. And nothing had been agreed. Nothing had been sorted. It'd probably just been a reach out. And probably, I think Carlos's first answer would have been, yes, I'd love to come. And then obviously when they got into the detail and potentially only an 18-month contract, Carlos went, well, no, I'm all right, thanks. And then it all goes to pot. And I've said it on Twitter and I got battered for it. Where I was like, people overestimate this pull of the Premier League. We're not a Man City. We're not an Arsenal. We're not, dare I say it, a Man United. We're 17th in the league. And teams that have got managers at the top of the Dutch league or 5th in La Liga, having built that project themselves, bringing them up, taking them to the semi-final, the final of the Copa del Rey, whatever it may be. They're not just all of a sudden then going to up sticks, or the clubs aren't just going to go, well, yeah, off you go then. If Leeds have come knocking, then yeah, we can't stand in your way. That's not how it works. If, like I say, if Man City come calling, it's a different conversation. But sometimes as Leeds fans, you know, they're the biggest club in the world to us. Of course they are. But when you take your head out of the Leeds bubble, you can go, well, I'm not surprised some of these managers that we're targeting aren't coming. And I think the club reacted to Jesse and sacked him quite rightly. I don't argue that. 2 wins in 18 or 17, whatever it was when he went, isn't good enough. It's bare facts. But I think they thought it'd be dead easy to pull one of these in, and it just hasn't proven that way. And I think they almost thought Carlos was like the dead cert. Like, we can go get Carlos if we want him like that.
Yeah.
With him previously being at the club and his ties to, you know, being Bielsa's assistant and him only managing in the Championship. And fair play to Carlos or whatever, if the conversation did go that way, of going, nah. Yeah. And saying I'm staying where I am. We've been made to look a bit stupid, mate. And I'm all for the club taking the time and getting the right person in, but it doesn't even look like we can do that. So it's going to be a flat panic managerial appointment now. It's looking like.
Yeah, let's move it on to that, because I want to get everyone's thoughts, and to be honest, there's been a new article released, I think, from Holland, which gives us a bit more details on that Schreuder stuff. So I'll pull that up on the screen. I just want to, before we do, I forgot to do it at the time. I tried to, but my screen went all funny. It went like this, you see. I just wanted to share this as well, just because I know there's a lot of disrespect towards Luke Ayling. Johnny Cooper put this out earlier on, great statistician, said Luke Ayling has made more tackles per 90 than any other defender in the Premier League this season, and has won more duels per 90 than any other player who's played at least 500 minutes. So respect where respect's due. He's been a captain's performance over the last, over the last 2 games specifically, and long may that continue. Let's chat about the Schreuder stuff now. So there's been an article released, and look, first of all, We'll go around the houses. Max, you haven't spoken for a bit, mate. Talk to me. What were your thoughts on Schreuder? I know you dropped in my stream last night and hastily sent me a DM as well to say, I'm just looking for positives, Joe. And I was like, no, he's not good. What are your thoughts, Max?
It's weird because in theory, when you actually look at the bare bones of the way he likes to play, it doesn't seem that bad. It doesn't seem like it's the worst thing in the world. But then you start to see what the Ajax fans said, and it's more about the fact that he could not deal with things when they went wrong. And in a relegation battle, things are going to go wrong. They said about his man management's terrible. He'll blame the players in interviews. He doesn't know how to deal with the press. Like, it's just a shit show when things go wrong, and things are going to go wrong in a relegation battle. So it's all well and good that maybe he's got a system that it could work. He's not the worst tactical manager in the world, because he's had some good stints in his career, shall we say, some good short stints. But realistically, I know Chris said obviously that we think that we're Leeds, but when we pull our heads out of our bubble, obviously we think that Leeds are massive. Sorry, not that we think we're the Leeds, because we are Leeds. But when you pull your head out of that bubble and you start to think, well, yeah, there's no way we could get somebody like Pochettino. Why would it be an appealing prospect to him or some of the other managers we've gone for? But I do think there's a middle ground where we are also above somebody like him. And that middle ground is where you get people like Nuno Espirito Santo sitting. So I don't think he's the best manager in the world, and I don't think he's as bad as Schreuder. So it's almost as though we need to go for that middle ground where they'd be willing to come to Leeds, but they're not terrible like what Schreuder is supposed to be. There was a guy in front of me in the cheese wedge with his phone out, going like this, with a proper zooming in on the press box, trying to find Schreuder, and you couldn't see him, but apparently he was there.
Yeah, well, no, it's been confirmed that he was there. Just on, and I just want to. This sounds mad because I'm sort of grateful that they did make the decision. But Gilly, what are your thoughts on? One sec, let me share this on the screen. So this is what's been reported now in Holland. So basically, do you know what I hate the most? That last line. Otto was convinced that Schreuder would pilot Leeds into safety. Of course he was. But what do you make, right, to what could easily be perceived as Radrazani bending to fan pressure? Like, just to put it out there, because it says in this article, and I'm glad he has, but it says here that he was charmed by Schreuder. By all accounts, his brother was going to come as well, who is Milos. No, that's his agent. One sec, let me find it. His brother Dick Schreuder was supposed to come.
That's not his name.
Dick Shredder.
Yeah, Dick Shredder, who was a coach at PEC Swall, I think. But he was supposed to come with Alfred Schreuder, and Radrazani was all in. And then obviously at the final hour has said, no, we can't make this move. And I think it's the right decision, because had it have gone tits up at the weekend against Everton, straight away fan opinions like, we're going down, boos, sack the board. You can imagine it now against Southampton had we lost to Everton. But what do you make to him being sold and then going, oh no, the fans aren't going to like it, and pulling out?
You don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I think if you look at recruitment, so player recruitment's completely different. You've seen a player, you've scouted the player, you've seen their capabilities, you've looked at positives and negatives about them. But when you're looking at bringing in a manager, I mean, leaving aside the salt and pepper pots we've had in the past with managers and Massimo and whatever else, you've got a recruitment process to go through of, okay, what do you think of the strengths of this squad? What are the weaknesses? What's the biggest challenge this club is going to face over the course of the next 3 years? That's just standard recruitment stuff. But you need to be able to get the guy in and listen to his thoughts, listen to what he would do. Has he done the right level of work that you expect for somebody to do that's going to come for a potential role with the club? There's a process for him to go through, and you don't know what conversations. It might be that he was charmed, as in he had a conversation with him before he travelled and all of that sort of stuff, and he seemed like a decent guy, but ultimately just didn't have the minerals when it came down to the questions. Or he might just not have impressed when they've sat him down and spoken to him and said, if we give you the keys to this club and this squad, what are you going to do for us? And if he didn't sell himself, Well, the right answer is for him to not come in. I think the right answer was for him not to come in from the start. I didn't want him at all. Looking at his record, looking at, as you said, the fans of Ajax, where you've had protests trying to get him out, and this is not the sort of person you want to come in that's going to bring the gravitas and bring a capability that's off the back of success. That's what we want. That's what we need. That's what we need to see.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'd love to agree with you and think that due diligence and everything that you mentioned actually went on. But Rocco, do you think it did, or do you think Rads had a few vinos, looked on Twitter and went, better not?
Yeah, I think the latter, definitely. Do you know what? I'm just fuming that they even entertained it. I cannot believe, having seen what's happened with Jesse, to think about appointing a man with the same credentials, failed in his one big job off the back of success with the biggest team in a small league, and just to think that he could do that again, especially with how badly it went at Ajax. It baffles me. It really does. And I know it's probably not easy, but then saying that, should we really be making excuses for Orta? It's his job, and it feels like he's just been asleep at his post. How can he not have known that Areola and Slot weren't going to come? Did he not? He should have been on the ball for at least the past month, but he should have been on the ball. He should always be on the ball. And then suddenly, when we've all expected Jesse could get sacked, any time in the last 3 months, or even all season, and suddenly he's got these three options, and once they've done, then that's it, because there's no way he's been thinking about this Schreuder guy all season while he's been at Ajax. No chance. He's just turned up, and they're like, "All right, well, yeah, he'll probably do, won't he?" And then there's been a huge backlash. So it does feel shambolic. I don't know what's going on. Whether they've just sort of, I don't know whether they all know that they're leaving at the end of the season and they don't really give a shit, and they'll just sort of, do whatever. I don't know. That's how it feels to me. I'm completely disillusioned with them because, this 2 or 3 years ago, I know it was Bielsa and everything was happy and positive, but, they seemed like they really cared. And it just doesn't feel like that now. I don't know. It just feels different.
Well, they had Jesse lined up whilst Bielsa was there. So why didn't they have a backup manager when Jesse was there, when Jesse's the one who was much more likely for things to go wrong?
Do you know what I would surmise by that is that Victor Orta's... And do you know what the mad thing is? Out of the trio, he was the last one that I've sort of turned, my opinion. I always, because I'm a bit of a passion merchant, and I see Victor and I'm like, yeah, he gets it, because he pumps his fist, a bit like I was with Janssen, until you actually step back and see the ability of the player, you know what I mean? And Orta was the last domino to fall, if you like. But having watched Orta and seen how much he's been ingrained over the past, 18 months, really, I look now and think, actually, you're a bit of a stain, really. You're causing issues. I think maybe he didn't look at other successors, Max, because he was the one that was convinced that Jesse was the man. Do you know what I mean? That Jesse was the man. And
it's similar to, although Firpo actually has played okay the last couple of games, it's a similar thing, isn't it? Once Orta makes a decision, it's like he's too proud to back down from that and to say, okay, I'll hold my hands up. I was wrong, and this isn't working. But he apparently, I'm sure it was that the reports coming out of the club was that Orta was still back in Marsh when he got sacked, and still was in favour of keeping him. And I think that's because of his pride. I think he's too proud to admit that he's wrong. But one of the most sort of impressive things you could do for me is hold your hands up and say, "Look, I was wrong. This didn't work. Yes. We'll try something else."
Yes! Sorry.
That Liverpool by any chance?
Everton have just hit the post from a corner. Literally, Liverpool have gone up the other end and Salah's put it in the back of the net. Get in! Sorry, Max. Sorry for cutting you off, pal. Salah 1-0. Get in.
Yeah, it's only just happened on my stream. Anyway, yeah, basically, he's just too proud, I think, and won't admit when he's wrong. And I think it's more impressive just to hold your hands up and say, look, I admit I was wrong. Let's try something different. Because then the fans will go, okay, well, he knows that he's wrong. He knows he's made a mistake. Instead of just saying he's just blindly backing people. Once he's made a decision that's made, then it's like, well, Could you never change your mind on anything then? Because things are going to go wrong at a Premier League club. A lot of signings don't work out. Managers don't work out. You've got to be willing to backpedal and say, look, this is wrong. Let's do something else.
100%. Chris, I could see you like rubbing your hands and that. I think you're in complete agreement there.
I've got a different slant on it, but I am in agreement. It's conspiracy theory time. So,
where's your tinfoil?
Let's take our minds back a week to the white smoke tweet, and everyone's expectations really high around Iraola and Slot and Gallardo, Corberan. All of a sudden, those aren't working out. Right, we need to lower expectations here, people, massively, because we're going to be bringing in a middle ground manager at best because we can't get our prime targets. Let's sit some muppet in the stand who's mates with the opposition manager anyway. He's mates with Ten Hag, right? Let's sit him in the stand. Brains will absolutely blow out. Twitter will go mental. It'll be Badgegate all over again. And then we can mention names like Gerrard and Nuno, and everyone will go, yes, anyone but Schreuder. Brilliant. Come on. It's plain as day, man. If they knew they can't. There's a difference between doing due diligence, which I don't think they do half the time, let's be honest. But there's basic football knowledge when you work at that level, and they must have known that there'd have been a huge backlash against someone like Schreuder, whatever he's called. I think it's all game playing again by the board and by Victor Orta especially, and I think they're up to it. I just think now, because everyone's like, "Yep, get Nuno in the door. He'll be brilliant. Going to Europe, win the league." If you said Nuno a week ago, 99% of fans would have gone, absolutely no hope. Is that the best we can hope for?
Yeah, to be fair, that wouldn't actually surprise me. But I think poor Schreuder knew nothing about it and thought he was just coming in for an interview. And he's been.
I think he's just come to see his mate and go out for T-Max after the game. That's all I think Schreuder's done. And Leeds have just hung him out to dry, and he's got absolute pelters for 48 hours. 24 hours.
I'm not sure I agree with that side of it, but I do agree with you that week ago, had Nuno been mentioned, it would have been underwhelming. However, I'm now at the stage, having stressed myself out for the last couple of days, and seeing the potential that Schreuder's coming in, because I was convinced he'd get beat by Everton, and then where would we be? I look at potentially the acquisition of Nuno, and of course, there's not been anyone credible as of yet mention him. But at this stage, I'm like, give me Nuno, give me Rafa, give me anybody that's gonna make us defensively resolute. And okay, the style of football might not be great. We might not enjoy watching it, but it'll get results. I didn't enjoy the previous manager's style, and it didn't get results. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I think any Leeds fan, as long as you're winning, really in the cold light of day when you go to bed at night, you're like, it's 3 points. It's 3 points.
In the short term, definitely. I sit next to a Wolves fan at work, and he said, like, Nuno's still thought of as a legend there. It didn't work out for him at Tottenham, but the finishes that he got them in the Premier League is unbelievable, really, for what Wolves had at the disposal. And sometimes we've seen sort of the ugly side of playing this attacking football for the last 18 months, really, now, including the end of Bielsa's era as well, where we were just getting tonked and conceding loads of goals. And then at the start of this season, Marsh looked like he wasn't going to concede many, and now it's like 2 goals every game. So we've sort of seen the ugly side of the attacking football, maybe just for a little while, just to keep us up and solidify, just win some bloody games. And even if it's ugly, I want to celebrate a goal again. I want to celebrate a goal and not think, oh, we're just going to concede straight away. It's
Do you know horrible. What, though? Bielsa aside, Gilly, when was the last time we had decent football? Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a fair shout, but to go from that to Marsh ball, it's awful, because we have been spoiled. And I don't think, I don't mean spoiled in the way that you see fans of ESL clubs being spoiled, as in we've not won any silverware for 10 minutes, what's going on? We were spoiled in that we were entertained, and when we weren't winning, we were still seeing good football being played. We understood the patterns of play. We understood what the expectations were, and more importantly, so did the players. But it was good football and it was entertainment. And I've not been entertained by Marshball much. You know, Chelsea game aside, and a couple of others where we've got good results. The football's just not been pleasurable to watch, and I think that's the killer for me, is that we're there to be entertained. You know, we all want to see Leeds taking away the wins, but we're there to be entertained. It's an entertainment business. But unfortunately for Marsh, it's also a results business, even though I don't want it to be. And just as a bit of an aside, just a slightly different conspiracy theory is you look at Leicester and you look at the fact that they've got a split board where some of them want to go into horse racing and get out of the football game altogether, and some of them want to continue running the club. And there's a potential that we've got a split board as well, where Rad's tweet might have been they had somebody agreed, and then all of a sudden he's been overruled by the people that are taking the club over and said, absolutely no way. You do proper due diligence. We're not happy with the work that you've done, and we're not happy with the people that you've identified. Again, going back to what I was saying before, I'm not convinced that is the case. It looks more like failure on the part of the people that are doing the recruitment rather than somebody overruling them. We don't really know what goes on behind closed doors, but what we can't afford is to be in that position where we've got a split board, where we've got some that are trying to make some decisions and then some overruling others. And it feels like we're in a bit of limbo, a little bit of no man's land at the moment in terms of being able to make decisions at board level.
Yeah. Rocco, I mean, are we at a stage where, because I know some might agree with this, do we stick with Scoobs and try and style it out till end of season and hopefully then look to an Iriola or a Slot? And listen, if I could fast forward, I would rather that and know that we stay up and bring in someone like Slot or Iriola. Or do we have to look and say, do you know what? We need someone who knows the Premier League, who's going to make us difficult to beat, to ensure that we stay up. And if that means that we have to give them a longer deal, because ultimately, Rafa and Nuno, let's say they are our approach, they're not going to take 6 months. They're going to want a little bit more, maybe 2 years minimum, 18 months, I'm not sure. Do we have to sacrifice that? Because what I would say, since Nuno left Wolves, they've gone backwards. You know, he had 2 7th-place finishers, highest points return, got them to a quarter-final of the European Cup. Yes, the football might have been turgid at times, but do Leeds United need a manager like that to give us stability in the Premier League before we then look to take that next step?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because that might well be the case, but then again, you know, maybe we don't have the team that would suit sitting back. You know, maybe the best form of defence for us is attack. You know, I always used to say that under Bielsa, you know, in the first season, early doors when we've, you know, lost to Man U 6-2 and all that, and people were saying, oh, you know, Leeds need to be pragmatic and defend. And I was always of the opinion, you know, if we defend, we'll get thrashed because we can't really defend. So maybe it'll be a case of that, you know, that you don't know. And if we're relying on counter-attacks and nicking a goal, well, we're not very good at nicking goals, are we? So it's really hard. I mean, I think I do want Nuno. I think he's a good guy and I think he's experienced and he ticks enough of my boxes. And I'm not convinced that he was that turgid, but I don't really know, to be honest. But I think he did great at Wolves, Spurs. I can't judge him on that. You know, Jose and even Conte have failed, and their players just, I don't know, they just can't be consistent, can they?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so hard to say what's going to happen. The one thing I would say is that I disagree that like we're in a rush. You know, like the board have given this impression that they need to get someone in before Everton. I don't think so. I think we do have a bit of time. Like, I'm happy with Scoobs taking the team at Everton. He's done really well against Man U in those 2 games. So, in answer, I'm happy for it to roll on to the next game and just see what happens from there, really. Tough one to say. I don't know. And that's why, you know, I have some sympathy with the club because they're in a tough position now, you know, mostly of their own making, but it is where we are and it's not easy from now and it's a huge decision. And, who is the right man? You know, the perfect man's not available yet.
Yeah, I mean, listen, football's about opinions. I disagree with Rocco in the aspect that I think we do need to get something quickly. Does anyone agree and side with Rocco that, you know what, having seen Skubala against Man United, give him the Everton game? You're nodding your head, Chris.
Yeah, I'd rather the club take a bit longer to get the right appointment in. I think Scoobs has got enough in the locker. The players seem to have reacted really well to him. taking the lead role. I'd fancy him against Everton. If we play anything like we've played for the large amounts of the 2 games against Man United, I would fancy us. So I'd rather them take an extra week or so and really do a bit more due diligence, as much as we don't think they do much of it, and get the right man in. But because maybe for me, it's because of the name being bandied around at the minute that I'd rather them just take a bit longer and see if they can refire up Areola or something. Because my God, I don't want Nuno in. But that might be for different reasons. It might be that my expectations were set so high a week ago because of the names being bandied around. And maybe I'm just a bit disappointed about it now coming down to someone like a Nuno. Do you know what I mean? But let me ask you a question, Joe, because I know you tried to convince me earlier on Twitter about Nuno. What would it have taken for you to have been convinced about Jesse? Because someone telling you the positives about him would never have convinced you, would it?
What would it take me to get convinced of Jesse? It's a good question.
A Leeds tactics video.
It's what?
A Leeds lately
tactics video. No. I think what I will say for Nuno, I suppose this. I don't know if this is answering your question. I'll give it a try.
I already know it.
If it's a politician's answer, it's all right. I will answer it, bro. What I will say, bro, like Nuno has a track record. Jesse, for me, never did. It was always going to be tough for me to go from Bielsa to Jesse. That's a fact. That's fair. I agree. Whereas now, it's very much, to be honest, I couldn't stand the man. I literally couldn't stand the man.
Don't believe you.
He came on and spoke absolute guff. You've got me, mate. You've got me in a rocket.
If we were sat mid-table now with another 10 points, you'd be a bit more forgiving, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's about winning football games.
The reason I asked that question, mate, is I don't want Nuno. But if he comes in and wins 3 out of the first 4 and all of a sudden we're sat 13th, then I'll quickly change my mind because my football club is moving away from the relegation zone. Do you know what I mean? I just don't see him as a good fit. He likes to play 3 at the back. I don't think we've got the wing backs at the minute to suit that system. There's an argument maybe Jackie could go at left wing back because he's got the engine to do it. Furpo certainly hasn't. He runs in treacle, does the lad. Bill, as good as he's been the last few games, clearly hasn't got 90 minutes in him at that speed and that pace. Although Nuno might play a slower style, so you never know. And I don't know that Christensen's hardly set the world alight, has he? So as much as I like the idea of a 3-5-2, I'm not sure it would suit us right now with the players we've got. And obviously he can't come in and bring the players in he needs. And I just find him a bit boring. And again, maybe that's my fallout from the Bielsa era, that it's just almost looking a bit boring. And I didn't understand a word Marcelo said, but I always laughed or cried or anything else with Marcelo because you bought in completely. And I just, Nuno and Jesse didn't. And within about 10 minutes, I was like, oh God, this is
Well, that's the crisis that I had when I was watching the Forest game, when just before he got sacked. I was thinking, like, do we just have to play that style of football to stay in the Premier League? Like, have we lived this Bielsa dream that it's possible to stay in the Premier League and play attacking football in the bottom half?
No, I disagree, Max. I mean, what I'll say about that Forest game, any decent manager worth his salt wins us that game. They were terrible. They didn't have to do anything. Steve Cooper showed a little bit of tactical acumen by putting 5 at the back and putting an extra man in midfield and Jack Colback. And our manager just went, more of the same, please. And it just went, it went tits up. I genuinely think another manager, even Skubala, would have got us something out of that game, having seen what Skubala's given us in the 2. I just think he's... And do you know what? They'll probably beat us, but listen, let Jesse go to Southampton because they will go down foot of the table with that man at the helm. And I can't wait. All them USA men's national team fans that came for me, just watch.
I think Skubala, what he's done is not changed things massively, which is why it's kind of like, I'm happy for him to have the helm a little bit longer just until we get the right appointment, because he's done the things that we were crying out for Jesse to do. It was just to play with a little bit of width. Everybody said that. Skubala's like, okay, first thing we'll do, just let the wingers have the wings and actually use them. The second thing is not to go flying out all the time and completely just leave us completely defensively open. And so instead of playing a high press and running after every ball, he's playing a mid block, and we're shuffling across the pitch whilst they've got it at the back. Because realistically, what's Harry Maguire going to do with the ball? So we shuffle across, and then when they put the ball into the midfield, that's when we go and try and win it. It's not the same as playing like a low block like what Everton will be doing tonight against Liverpool and just sitting back on the goalkeeper's toes. We would still try and win the ball in the midfield and go and attack. But it's just like the things that we were asking Jesse to do, be a bit more pragmatic. Don't leave us so open. I know we still conceded 2 goals, but that was against Man United, who've got some of the best attackers around. But Skubala, because he's not changed a massive amount, is probably why he's able to get us to tick over so quickly after taking over. So I think against Everton, it's the right call to maybe, if we haven't got anyone in by then, don't panic, give him that one, and then get a new manager in. But we sacked him, Jesse, a lot earlier than what we sacked Bielsa. So the new manager comes in, he's still got more games than Jesse had to keep us up, and even Jesse managed to keep us up last season. So
that's a good point. That is a good point. I think he had 12 games, didn't he? Just want to bring in Gabe's super chat. Thank you very much, Gabe. Thanks for supporting the channel. He says, I agree with Joe here. Win percentage in 7th with Wolves in the Prem is enough for Nuno to solidify Prem football for 1 to 3 years. Then you can hire someone else to take us forwards. He's also employed a 4-2-3-1 at times. Thank you very much, Gabe, for your contribution. Do you know what though, Gilly and Max and Chris and also Rocco saying like maybe it gives us time? I think my and again this is caused by the board. I have a real sense of urgency because the board have lulled me into thinking that they're also acting like that. They're also, for me, panicking without actually knowing it, but seeing our owner say white smoke. Then it's next manager. 1 minute Victor's in Spain, then he's in Holland, and then next thing we know, we've getting a manager, inviting him to the game, and now we're being told they've said, oh no, at the last minute. So that tells me they're panicking. So I'm like, if you're panicking, just get Nuno, just get Rafa. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I'm not thinking straight, but I'm like, if you're going to go somewhere, go there, not to some no-mark from Holland. Do you know what I mean?
I agree. You know, I think you and I have had some exchanges. I think I were more Rafa than Nuno, as long as it's short term was my only caveat to that. It's not somebody that I'd want to see come in with a 3-year deal or anything like that. But to the end of the season, I think that solidifies us, and that gives us an opportunity. Then you cannot go and get, you know, the dream ones, the Luis Enriquez and the Pochettinos. You cannot get them into a relegation battle. They're not going to come. It's too risky to their careers. They will not do it. But it's a different circumstance. If you've got the 49ers investment group in the coming summer saying, here's the investment that's going to be available for you to go and spend, and here's the investment we've already made available for this side, and this is the squad that you've got, and we've secured Premier League football for next season, that's a very different conversation, and it opens up avenues to managers that you will not get right now. And I would rather we did that with a short-term appointment. And do you know what? I wouldn't want to see this, but my club going out and signing somebody and saying, yeah, you can have a 3-year contract, but then actually we get a better name landed in the summer and you just pay them off.
Yeah.
It just becomes a money game at that point.
Just thinking about it, though, when Newcastle got this massive takeover, Eddie Howe's a very good manager, but he's not a Pochettino or a manager of that caliber, is he? And think how much money they've got behind them. So maybe we were being a little bit unrealistic about the sort of manager that we can attract. I know Chris was saying before, like the Premier League is a big draw, but managers don't actually want on their CV going down, do they?
A lot of people kept saying, I have categorically said all the time, stop talking about Poch, stop talking about Tuchel. They are not coming to basement dwellers Leeds United, which is where we are.
I did a poll on Twitter saying, do you realistically think that Leeds United could sign Pochettino? Because I thought it was ridiculous. And someone I put the 2 options as yes, of course, and no, that's delusional. Yes, of course, one with 56%.
Listen, there might be people on the panel that think we would, but there's no way he goes from PSG to Leeds United. There's no way Tuchel goes from winning a Champions League to Leeds United.
Poch has openly stated that he's waiting out for another Champions League club or something very close to being a Champions League club. Let's be honest here. Leeds aren't very close to being a Champions League club right now. More like
you are if you're right. According to Rads, a couple more years. You know what I mean?
You don't see managers go up and then come back down again, do you? You only see them make their way up to the Champions League, and then that's it. That they are a Champions League manager. They won't go anywhere. That was the argument
that was given to me, Max, loads of times. Well, he was at Southampton. No, he started at Southampton. It's a very different conversation, and then went up the ladder. He's not going to climb back down it.
Just to, there's been an article put together, folks, by the Daily Mail. This was 14 minutes ago. Again, they might just be, connecting the dots and all that sort of stuff. But basically, it looks like they probably are fishing. But I'll bring it up on screen for folks anyway, all the same. So basically what they're saying is that Leeds are considering Nuno Espirito Santo as their manager. This is the best line. Steven Gerrard's availability has been noted alongside Gary McAllister. The maddest thing in, just a little bit further around, the former Villa boss is understood to have reservations. Like, Gerrard's got reservations about coming to Leeds United. What's all that about?
That's because of the fans, that, mate. He'd absolutely brick it because I think he'll know that a lot of the fan base wouldn't want him.
Yeah, it's a bit mad. I don't know if can you hear that advert?
Yeah.
No? Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Yeah, it's on that screen there, is what it is. But listen, look, it's finally making it out there to the press. It made... Oh, wrong one. That is just me. I will do this seamlessly one day. But yeah, I mean, they're probably just clutching, having seen the general consensus around social media.
Following you on Twitter. That's all
exactly.
Doing.
Yeah, man, exactly. Someone said to me earlier, Joe, Radrazani clearly looks at Twitter, so I started tagging him in everything. We know that he's been sliding into the DMs of other people as well. So, he's a bit of a madman. I'd take his phone off him. But
sorry, Joe, just before you go, if you hadn't have tweeted that about the white smoke, the original thing everybody thought was that it would be by the end of the week. So even if it wasn't by the end of the week and it would rolled into it's now Monday, people wouldn't be panicking yet. They go, oh, it's not been announced yet. I wonder if they'll do it by the end of this week. But he just, like you said before, I know we're going to cover another same thing, but it's unnecessary pressure. Just leave it, and everybody thinks it'll be by the end of the week. Nobody expressed an issue with that. I don't remember seeing anyone saying, no, that's not soon enough. We need one tomorrow. Nobody said that. So just shut up.
Do you know what I will say before we'll like round it off? And I've had a look at the fixtures, and there is so much on Everton and Southampton for me. But as soon as I think about Nuno, I'm confident that he shithouse points in the rest of the games as well. Even if an Iriola comes in who has a great style or a slot, I still feel there's so much pressure on Everton and Southampton. But with someone like Nuno, someone like Rafa, even if we were to lose them games, I still look at Crystal Palace away. I still look at Chelsea away. I still look at games and think, Nuno could shithouse as a point there. Whereas I'm not too sure when you're going for style over substance in them games, whether Iriola or Slot, if they don't get off to a good start, and this is why managers don't want to take it mid-season, because it's shit or bust. Whereas someone like a Nuno or a Rafa might get us something away at home to Newcastle. You know, we've got Spurs. You've even got Liverpool at home. I look at someone like Nuno and think, yeah, we could get something out of that. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to just straight away thinking, we've lost to Everton, Southampton, we're going down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Could win a FA Cup.
Yeah, could win the FA Cup. Yeah, exactly. Shithouse one against.
Bloody hell, I forgot we were still in the FA Cup.
No, because I tell you what, if we won FA Cup, I'd be forever reminded that Jesse got us to 5th round. I'd be like,
would he get a medal?
Yeah, we have to thank Jesse, like Jake Humphrey tried to thank Lampard when Chelsea won the Champions League under Tuchel. It'd be like that, wouldn't it? We must thank Jesse. Right, let's round it off. Chris, we'll come to you first. Are you confident Leeds United will have a new man in before Sunday, and will they get the appointment right? Like, what does the future? Do they leave it with Scoobs?
So to answer your two questions, no, I don't think they'll have someone this week. No, I'm not confident they'll get it right. The track record says it all right. Apart from Bielsa, name me another good managerial appointment this group have made. There isn't one. So I can't be confident. And the names that I was quite pleased about, quite rightly, aren't coming when you look at, again, get outside the Leeds bubble. So I think Scoobs will still be in charge. As we said earlier, I'm okay with that. I'm confident he can get something out of the Everton game. Really needs to be 3 points, but yeah, I don't know. It's just all a bit of a shit show at the minute, mate. To be honest with you, and it's boiling my head.
Yeah, I hear it, man. It's been great for content, but it is boiling my head. I can't lie.
I know I've seen you absolutely losing your mind on a couple of streams the last few nights.
I guess people say stuff to me, and I just go all in. Then.
2 feet.
Yeah, Rocco. Same question to you, mate. What does the future hold at this point?
Yeah, I feel like they might appoint someone this week. I think they're getting itchy feet, and I think they'll probably get something done because that's what their aim is. Their aim is to do something, and if they'll go as low as Schreuder, then I think they'll get someone in that's a bit better. Yeah, God knows from there. Will it be the right man? Who knows? I think at the end of the day, it's probably on the players. As long as he's not Jesse Marsh playing 4-2-2-2 and all that crap. I think it's on the players. The players can keep us up like they did under Marsh. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Thoughts, Gilly?
Not confident we'll get somebody in, and not confident that it'll be the right person if we do. And the earlier we do it, the less confidence I've got, weirdly enough, because I think it goes back to the point that you were making before, they'll look panicked. And I think if they end up just making a snap decision of let's just get someone in, well, that's going to lead it to being the wrong person.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. And they have caused, haven't they, Max, their own panic amongst fans as well, like because of Radrazani and his stupid phone. But
yeah.
do you have confidence, Max, that we get someone in and will it be the right appointment? I mean, you were all over Schreuder, really, so you'll take anybody at this point, won't you?
Max tried his hardest to still be positive here.
I know, yeah, he's really like down there, isn't he, trying to get it?
I think if we get somebody like Nuno, even on the short term, I think it creates a shift in what we are. I think over recent years we've been so flaky when we've played away at Everton, at Crystal Palace, at Fulham, at all these teams. We always seem to do badly when we go on paper. We've got a better team than them. We're playing better football than them. When we're under Bielsa, even we struggled in some of those games. But I feel like somebody like Nuno, like you said, Joe, he shithouses points for you, doesn't he? And it may not be pretty, but to stay in the Premier League, that's what we need. And realistically, when we're talking about we're being in limbo before, I think we're in limbo until next summer, or this summer, sorry, when the 49ers take over. We are going to be in limbo until the 49ers have majority ownership of the club and they can go, right, manager, we can pay you whatever you want within reason, and we can provide you with X amount of money for the players. Go and do better than we've been doing. But at the moment, we are in limbo. So maybe it's not the end of the world to have somebody. I'm kind of coming around to the idea that it might not be the end of the world to have somebody like Nuno, who he doesn't play the worst football in the world. It's not as good as Bielsa, obviously, because nothing is, and nothing will ever match that again. So we kind of have to lower our expectations on entertainment value. But as long as we win games and I've got goals to celebrate again and victories to celebrate, I'll be happy if it keeps us up. That's all I give a shit about until the club is taken over.
2-0, Cody Gakpo. He's Leeds and he knows he is. Cody Gakpo's finally scored. Leeds United? No, Liverpool. 2-0 up.
He's just a shit Willy Nonto.
He is. But I agree with you, Max. Listen, my head is at this point, give it Nuno. And not even, I know it's shameless, but give him a 3-year deal. Give him whatever he wants. Like Gilly said, if it gets to the point, because you could argue, right? Like Gilly said, let Nuno come in. Then when the ownership change hands, they go, we're taking it in a different direction and bin him off. Do you know what I mean? Because that happens.
With Corberan, wasn't the thing that they didn't offer him a long enough contract. They only offered him 18 months.
Yeah,
so
but But what I would say in response to that is maybe the 49ers weren't as sold on Corberan as, say, Radz's team, for example. But I think with Nuno, surely you would imagine anyway, I think Nuno gets enough backing from those that are in, because you just have to look at his record in the Premier League, whereas Corberan still is a bit of an unknown entity. I'm just guessing, though, you know.
Didn't they finish 7th and 13th or something?
Yeah.
So he's got a track record of getting results in the Premier League. And like we said before, Jesse Marsch got sacked earlier than what Bielsa did. So anybody who comes in is going to have more time to do this, to get us out of the shit at the bottom of the league. So
if just quick question for everyone, I know we're running over slightly. If Scoobs was to get 3 points against Everton, at that point, are we all just saying just give it Scoobs? Because that's what'll happen, won't it? If we're saying we need to give him time, if he actually goes and gets 3 points, then we're surely all going to be saying, well, that's 4 points in 3 games. Give it him.
I think you could just let him roll on a bit. You know, you don't have to,
until he loses and then go, bring Nuno in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, give him the Southampton game, and if he can't beat Jesse, then get him out.
Yeah, that is it, innit? As long as you beat Jesse, we're all good. Alex says, I think players will play for Scoobs and maybe the safe bet. Just worried about needing to add more coaches. Listen, they've even got that wrong, haven't they, really? The club bringing in, like, Maric and all that. Regardless, they've had to bin them all off, you know what I mean? Even bringing Armas in looks stupid now at this point. So, yeah, just take the bank card off a rota. Just say, listen, you're not getting any more miles. You're not visiting any more countries. You stay there, right? And 49ers will take control from here on in. I don't know. We'll see. Listen, we'll end it there. What I all want you to do is go on over and check out Gilly at Leeds That, Max at Leeds Lately, Rocco over... Oh, I've done it wrong. Sorry. I've seen the head shaking. Right, okay, we'll go again. I want you to check Gilly over at Autono's Better Podcast, Max at Leeds Lately, Rocco at Leeds That, and Chris at All Leeds TV. I think Leeds That will be going to record their podcast now, which is always a great listen. Gilly, when have you done yours? Is it out?
No, they're about to go start now.
Oh, right, okay. I'm keeping you all here, aren't I?
Splitting the audience.
Yeah, great stuff. Sorry for making an error there, folks. Listen, folks, I'll be back tomorrow at some point. All eyes on Saturday's game and managerial appointment. We'll see you again next time. So it'll be Sunday night, I think, at 8 o'clock.